Today we have a treat. Hillary Spreizer, who is the CEO and owner of the Latitude Group, is joining us. And in the talk I had with Hillary, there were so many things that was like, I needed to hear this again. She talks a lot about all of us feeling like our stories have to be so remarkable when some of our stories and parts of our stories are unremarkable, but they can still be impactful. And I think that's important as leaders when we're comparing ourselves or we're looking to others, that not every part of your story has to be this huge highlight reel and all of this success and awards or whatever you put into it. Some of it's going to be unremarkable, but it's going to be impactful in different ways. And the key message, she talks a lot about scarcity versus abundance and how she shifted her mindset in that. And the piece I really took away is talking about how to stay in motion. Even when things are hard, even when it feels like nothing is going the way you want it to, how do you stay in motion? Because that motion is what gets you from that place to a new place, whatever that place is. So you guys are in for a treat. I can't wait for you to hear this interview with Hillary on the View from the Top podcast. Welcome to the View from the Top podcast, Hillary. I'm so excited you're here.
It's great to be here.
You are in sunny Palm Springs, and we are recording at the end of January in Minneapolis. So I hate you and I love you at the same time. You get that a lot.
Appreciate that. And it's also why my view is not the outdoors.
Thank you.
Everyone would stop the meeting immediately.
I mean, it is horrible that those two clouds that you said that you saw in the sky. I mean, we're going to have to do something about that because I don't know how that could be happening, but
it's not always perfect here.
It's not, right? Well, we're going to talk about your success. We're going to talk about, honestly, the reason you're here is because you and I have had so many conversations around what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to be a business owner right now or ever. And it's not all glamorous. So I appreciate your vulnerability and the conversations we've been able to have. And so I want to have that conversation, only I want other people to be able to benefit from it instead of just me.
Great. Let's do it.
So I would love you to just start about talking about your success. Kind of what has that mountain, right? What have been those obstacles and transformative moments that have kind of gotten you to this point? Owning a business, growing a business in this environment, right? Very uncertain environment. What's gotten you here?
I joke that most of my big career decisions has happened when the market's falling apart. So I got into recruiting at the end of 2007, beginning of 2008. Was brought in as a process analyst for a tech staffing company. The market fell apart, which everyone knew was going to happen. And they said, if you want to stay, you've got to learn to be a recruiter. So that's really what got me into it.
Interesting.
Spent a few years there, went over to Latitude, and really just worked my way up in the company. I went from being a recruiter to managing recruiters to sales to managing salespeople. And then 5 years ago, bought the company from the founder. And in that time, and then really moving into now, really developed the understanding that leading from a place of scarcity, being really insecure, kind of starting that way to more of a place of abundance, really thinking about how do I propel the people inside of the organization forward? How do I remember that my why has never been to be the smartest person in the room? And make sure that I'm constantly thinking about who am I pulling into the room to help us move forward, to help our clients move forward, has really defined what's gotten me here. The rest is just sort of the mechanics of it.
Yeah. I love that idea of leading from a place of abundance and not scarcity. And it's hard sometimes. I mean, we're not going to be toned up to kind of what's happening in our world today, what's happening in Minneapolis, in the month of January of 2026. But at the same time, as leaders, we've got to figure out, right, how to show up with some hope for our people. Like how have you, I mean, you've been through a lot of things, right? Beyond just even the current situation. Like, how do you manage your own energy in that way?
I think I still have a tendency to not put my own oxygen mask on first. So I still definitely have room to improve there. But what I've learned specifically over the last couple of years has really been about understanding what's the vision and the direction for the company. Does everyone inside of the company know what they're accountable for and what success looks like? And then how do we make sure that we are practicing moving every other piece on that board constantly? So if you think about the last 5 years, we've had COVID, we have had chaos on just about every aspect of our lives. That clearly is not slowing down when you think about what's happened. We are only at the 26th day of the year, which seems crazy. So if that is going to be the reality, then as a business owner and a leader, the expectation, I have to be expected to do everything I can to create resiliency and innovation in the team. And that has to come through practice. So I might not have a hopeful message every single day, but there's a practiced way of moving forward and thinking about how do we make sure we're realigning to the North Star? What can we control? Yep. What do we have to care for? Because people are human and maybe need a break and need some space. So how are we rearranging that and having real conversations around capacity?
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily that I always have the hopeful message, but I do structurally enable movement inside of this chaos.
I love it. Enable movement. That is probably a key. A couple things that you touched on that are just, I think I want to reiterate for the leaders listening. Enabling movement, practicing resilience. This is a key thing that we are talking to all of our clients to. I speak to CEO forums all the time. You have to start practicing resilience for your team to be able to build that muscle. And yes, you would like to not always be practicing it when it feels like it's chaotic, right? But this is practice. It's making them stronger, even though it's hard, right, to go through. And I think easy to just back up and like take the, pedal off the metal during these times and say, I'm going to take it easy on everybody. But what if that's not what they need to be able to climb their own mountains, right? And to be able to help the organization serve more people.
Well, and I also think it's not real. Like this idea that things will slow down is not happening. And whether we know the why or not, our velocity is increasing as a culture. And so I think that there are times to recognize when you need a mental break, but that goes into the practicing resiliency, is being able to recognize that break versus you're burnt out and now you have to completely withdraw. And I agree with you that if you are constantly practicing resiliency then, or how to be resilient, then when the big things come, they're not as scary because you're used to it, because you've been in motion the entire time.
Yes. I love that. When people look at you, Hillary, write your profile online and kind of business owner and, what's one thing they may not know about your journey to success that it's like, it's not all a highlight reel?
Well, there's a lot. Yeah. There's definitely been a lot of ups and downs, but I think what I like to talk about the most is that my story is very unremarkable. And I say that because I think for a very long time, I had this idea that being an entrepreneur or being really successful meant that I had to go invent something that was amazing, or I had to be smart enough to be in an Ivy League school to then drop out and go start something and get millions of dollars in funding. I've never been that person. I grew up in a very stereotypical Midwest family. I was the first person to go to college and I happened to really like to work. And throughout my career, I've always been pretty good at seeing doors open and not being afraid to walk through them. But I've also been supported by leaders along the way that saw something in me and helped me develop it. So I say that as something that people might not know only because this idea that you sit on this pedestal as a leader or the CEO or owner of a company is it's unrelatable, and it's also not true. I'm navigating these waters just like everybody else and figuring out, how do I show up to my team? How do I show up to my community? How do I show up to myself? And how do I constantly reinvent to adjust to what's going on in the world?
Right.
And I think that normalcy, or I guess that relatability sometimes gets lost when you're also trying to get on stages, and you're also trying to like grow the brand of the business so that we're big and things like that. But really, I'm a kid from South Dakota that went to a D3 school and worked my way up into a company, did well enough that I could afford to then buy the company from the founder. And not that there's not a ton of work inside of that.
Yeah.
And then the growth that we've had and things like that. But like, I didn't have like the Zuckerberg moment.
Yeah. No, most people don't. It's hard work, a little bit of luck, which I think you create your own luck, right? With your preparation, ready for opportunities, but a little bit of timing, luck on certain things, being at that company when the owner was, kind of looking to sell and being in a place where you were prepared to make that decision. When you think back on kind of, we talk about the view from the top is like you're climbing these mountains, right? In your own, in kind of life. Is there a moment that sticks out for you that was like, that you think back to that you're like, okay, that was the moment where things changed, something clicked differently, things changed for you?
Yeah, I've had a few, and back to this practicing leadership, have worked really hard to recognize some of these inflection points a little faster so that it's not the universe like dropping a piano on me for me to get it, because I'm also pretty stubborn. But I've had a few really kind of big inflection points. When I bought Latitude, I was emotionally completely unprepared. And in hindsight, very much should have recognized that that would happen. But I was buying from the founder, who had really been my mentor and my leadership structure for the 10 years before that. And then one day, she goes away. I'm the owner, which on paper is amazing, although terrifying, and really just means you're in a ton of debt.
Right.
And also then recognize that I didn't grow up in operations. I grew up in sales. So I had this like extreme fear of failure. All of a sudden, I'm not just risking me, I'm risking the people that work for the company. Everybody's saying congratulations because you've hit this massive milestone, which yes, feels great. But then you realize that that finish line just means that you're starting a whole new race. And spoiler, that will be your entire life forever. So like the finish line is death, which means every time you hit a milestone, there's just another thing. Like, just very morbid. I don't mean that to.
I love the motivational speaking. The finish line is death. But it's true. Like, it can be very easily glamorized, and like you've got that badge now that you're wearing, but that badge comes with a hell of a lot of responsibility and a lot of imposter syndrome and fear and sleepless nights and all of that. Most parts of it are not that glamorous.
Right. I agree. And I up until the last couple of years, I was very reactive instead of reflective. So I didn't even realize I had really come to the other side of that until 2.5 years ago, when I started to really understand that I was feeling some burnout. And the reality was that the company was doing great, because while I was having a complete mental breakdown, we were also in the post-COVID tech hiring boom, which was the most hiring we'd seen since .com. And I knew how to do that. Like, I was really good at the business and the revenue generation of the business. So I could compartmentalize, which my therapist would probably not love me saying, enough to be like, I can control this and I can do this part really, really well while I am falling apart over here.
Right.
And in a way, it was a kind of a gift, because it also then helped with all these other things. But I don't even think I really started to understand the residual effect of that until a couple of years later.
And honestly, I think leaders that are listening right now, I think some of them are at that point right now. And we're like, mine came as my business was great. My family was actually great. I was falling apart and dying inside, but I was like, but I should be grateful because look at everything I have. So I shouldn't need to take care of myself. I shouldn't be questioning all the things I'm questioning. And so I think there's a lot of us who look around and go, we do have it better than most, right? We do have, I have a healthy family, and I have all, there could always be worse. It could be something worse. And I'm curious for you, is like, what was that point where you're like, okay, this is not working? Like, what was that point where you're like, something has to change?
2 years ago in the summer, No, it was in the spring because I was down in Palm Springs. I was working. I was overlooking this beautiful golf course. And exactly what you were saying, I was like, how in the world could I have a problem right now?
Mhm.
The company is, at the time, I had been able to pay off the founder of Latitude. I was making money. My husband loved me, still does, thankfully. And I was in this beautiful sunny place. I'm like, what in the world could be wrong with me? And I was working and we had just closed a deal. And I remember thinking, whatever. And it was this wake up moment where I was like, this is the thing that you should love. And you feel completely disconnected to it. Not angry about it, just totally disconnected.
No.
And I was like, this is a problem. Yes. And I was like, this is a problem. And I'm too young and I'm too expensive for this to just be it. And so there's got to be some reflection. There's got to be a shift. And it was, I think when I've now catch that earlier, but this idea of just not quite being aligned with my North Star. And this idea that like, okay, I need to go back and tune up as a leader, as a business owner or entrepreneur and be like, okay, where's that misalignment? And I've got to get back into my lane.
I like that idea about tune up because it's not a one-time thing. So while you had to figure it out in that moment, this is a constant practice, right? To manage your own energy, to manage what's coming at you, because it's constantly going to evolve. And we can't just think we've done it once.
Yes. And I think part of that comes from this idea of goal setting or success being a way of living versus a thing that you cross the finish line on. Mm-hmm. Because for me, it was like, well, okay, I want to buy the business. Okay, so that's my goal. So then I bought the business. And I was like, I want to pay off the business. Okay, so then I've paid off the business. And then you set these like, these materialistic finish lines, these milestones. And then for me, what I started to realize is that I was hitting the things on paper, but I didn't feel like I was living in a way that felt successful. And realigning that was a real game changer for me in figuring out like, how do I feel successful versus how do I look successful?
Right. It's not checking the boxes. It's how you feel. So as sitting here today, how would you define success for you?
Success for me is making sure that where I spend my time and the things I do are focused and vetted through my own compass. Mm-hmm. Like, I enjoy moving people forward. It doesn't matter if it is related to business or not. That's what I want to be doing. Mm-hmm. I need to do that through my core values. I need to know that I am, I talk a lot about the butterfly effect. It's why it's our logo, that I'm making a positive impact and that the ROI is high enough. And not just money, but like time, capacity. Yeah. And if everything I'm doing vets through that well, I'm living successfully. And what I like about it is that it's this constant exercise in that. And that makes me tune up. That makes me go back and do the work because this is the second company I've been at since college. I didn't grow up in a big four with a huge leadership structure and a curriculum of how to do this successfully. So it's really about getting coaches around me and getting exercises around me that help me constantly retool and do that.
Is there, as you've gone through this, is there a belief or a mindset that you had to unlearn to kind of be able to continue going forward, right? Did you have to reprogram?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The scarcity to abundance was a really big one. I grew up with a really good lens of how to protect a business and had to learn that that's different than growing one.
Different risk profile.
Different risk profiles. Really glad I got to watch the first one though, because it gave me this crash course in like the path not taken, which was great. And then very recently unlearning this idea of quantity of work over quality. I grew up very much with this idea that the more you can get through, the more valuable you are. In reality, what I learned was that I had created a culture where I was hoarding information, bottlenecking it, and not doing anything really well. So like, great news, I'm the problem. It's me. Which was good because I can control me. So that was great. But realizing that unlearning that and getting really good at one thing has made me feel more engaged and more focused in the business, and then cascading that down through my team, because like the problem with having a small business is everybody just replicates you because that's what you know.
Right.
So then you've got to unlearn that, and the opportunity to have people in my organization go through that earlier in their career.
Yeah.
I'm hoping is very valuable and impactful for them later, because it's been incredibly impactful to me, but it's been a big thing to unlearn. And I still kind of drift over into the let's be busy versus let's add value.
This is not a perfect science, right? I mean, none of the advice we're getting is like all day, every day we show up like this. I mean, we just had a 10-minute conversation before we started recording the podcast, right? Where it's like, there's a lot I don't have figured out, right? Or whatever. Like, but it's not saying that should be the life or the world you're living in. It's more of I think, and you said this earlier, the recognition of how it's feeling. And you're like, oh, I call it the rumble strips. Like, I don't like this, right? It's making me feel kind of weird. Like I need to get back on what I know, right? Or what I need to make myself feel better. And I think so many of us, the world is so noisy that we sometimes mute our own rumble strips.
Yes. And you said this, it was at a retreat, it was somewhere, but it's always stuck with me that anxiety is not the issue. Anxiety is a flag for you to recognize what's going on. Like it's a human animal instinct that you pay attention to versus immediately avoid. And that's exactly that like if I can't recognize the misalignments, I can't get back on track.
My therapist told me that my anxiety was energy that didn't have the right place to go, to have an outlet. Mm-hmm. And so it changed, I think that word anxious or anxiety, especially having kids, right, in this anxious generation as they've now been stereotyped, it's hard because it's like we look at anxiety as something's broken, something's wrong with you, when really anxiety is just telling you that you're not in line with need to be in, right? That your energy is not being exported in the right places. It doesn't have the right outlet to go to.
Well, and what a relief. Yeah. Like that's what it is, right? Like that's such a relief that it's not like there is something wrong with me. I have a data point and an indicator. Oh, that's way more approachable than you're broken.
And you can be curious about it instead of judgmental.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you value today that your past self didn't value as much?
Quietness. Younger me was very intense and very into this idea of like work hard, play hard. Like even my workouts were nuts. And if I wasn't just flatlining, like it wasn't working. And I'm sure my nervous system really appreciated that era. But really this idea that I enjoy being quiet. I enjoy being in my head. I enjoy being able to say, let me think about it.
Yeah.
And that is a space that I was never confident enough to live in before.
Yeah. I remember the first solo retreat I went on, right? Where I was purposely by myself. I'd always been around people, very social, and I was terrified to be alone with myself. And now I love nothing more. It's that relationship with self that once you can refine that and figure it out, there's so much power there.
I agree. And the reality is nobody has the answer. Like all the answers are inside of me. So if I can't figure out how to spend time inside of me, then it's going to get real tricky.
Yeah. So speaking of that, for the leaders listening, right? Well, let's get kind of actionable here. What are a couple of 2 to 3 things, energy rituals, things you do, right, to maintain when you're feeling off, or right, to bring you kind of to ground you and bring you back to center? What do you do?
So I'm a big reader. I'm a big learner. There is a book called EOS Life, and I'm reading another book right now that is very similar, called Unstuckable. It's actually on my desk right now. And I like them because they have tangible exercises inside of them about who do you want to be? What do you like to do? What don't you like to do? What's your North Star? Because I am grew up a very tactical leader.
Yeah.
I have to practice visioning space. Like I do not naturally spend time alone and come up with brilliant ideas. I need here are the exercises that get you to the next thing.
Right.
And those 2 books bring me back into that space. And I've done this work now over and over and over again that my brain gets back into that space faster.
Yep.
So I like real tactical stuff.
Great.
Moving my body is really important. There is a direct connection between how much I move my body and my stress level or ability to kind of manage stress.
Yep.
And then I would also say spending time with my husband, and I think this applies to anyone that has a partner or a very close friend. John notices my drift faster than I do.
Oh.
And the accountability in that is really nice because sometimes I have these blind spots because I'm so in something that he'll see it faster than I will. And it'll read differently to him. And it's a nice reminder for me to be like, oh, I actually need to step back from whatever I'm doing because it's having this unintended impact. And it's not even the impact of be like not showing up and being present at a meal or being on my phone too much. It's that it's an indicator of like, I'm not aligned. There's some sort of thing there.
I love this so much because we do have people that love us and see us. Mm-hmm. And it can be friendships too, right? If you're not in a relationship, but like there are people where you're like, they're going to be like, hey, something's off. Mm-hmm. Right? Or like, what do you need right now? And you're like, no, I'm good. They're like, no, what do you need? It's those people that won't take I'm good, I'm fine for an answer. They know you're not fine and they're going to help you get to the bottom of it. I think that is gold to surround yourself with at this point.
Agree. And I wish I had figured that out sooner. So I've been with my now husband for 10 plus years. And even when I was going through the buying of the company, I had not figured out how to be very vulnerable with him enough where he could recognize that I was so far off the rails.
Right.
And recognizing the work that I needed to do to get to a point where someone could catch that in me has been a really interesting and fun exercise because exactly, like you need somebody that is close enough to you to recognize when there is a shift and to not just take I'm fine as the answer.
Yeah. I love that so much. When you were, we talk about climbing the mountain. When you were at base camp, right? Before you were kind of on this journey, what's something you wish you had known back then?
That the point is that I don't have the answers. Mm. The whole point, and this is specific to my why, is that I am not the smartest person in the room and I'm not on this planet to know all the answers. I'm on this planet to get people into a room that do. And I wish I had remembered that because I grew up so much of my career thinking you have to be the best at the thing at your boxes, right? Like I've got to be the best recruiter. I've got to be the best salesperson. And that shifts when you own a company. And like, I don't know how to measure, like I have to be the best staffing company. Like that's not what I am measuring anymore, right? And so I wish I had understood that. And now I have so much relief in this that I don't have all the answers. And we're just going to figure it out and we're going to try new stuff. And as long as the North Star is clear and as long as people are accountable and know what success looks like, that's all I got to do. The rest, I just got to figure out how to build the room. And that's the thing I happen to be very good at, which is great. And I wish I had understood that sooner. I wouldn't have felt as much of an imposter if I had gotten to that faster.
Right. And, I think as I think of the last 5 years, we talk about COVID and everything else that's happened in tariffs. And now, just the political environment is most leaders don't have the answers right now. If they're being honest with them, none of us know how to navigate the right way through this. Mm-hmm. There is no right way, right? But it's new to everyone having to have navigated this. And I think if more leaders had done the work, like we're talking about, to just say, I don't know what the answer is, but I know here's the next step that feels right. Our organizations would be healthier because there's no ego attached to, I know what feels right. I know who needs to be in that container to have that conversation that will solve this problem and get us in motion. That's literally the message that everyone needs to take from this that you said earlier is like staying in motion.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Through hard times.
I completely agree because the reality, to your point, is we are all going to make some decisions that are better than others. Right. Like in every aspect of our life. So if you know that going into it, what a gift to be able to say, I don't know, to teach your team how to say, I don't know, and then to teach yourself and your team how to move, not in any direction. This isn't like let's all cowboy and shotgun out whatever we want to do, but really thinking about how do I intentionally move in chaos and in gray and where I don't know if it's going to work. There is so much that you can control in that.
Yep.
That creates a sense of relief. I feel so much more relieved these last 2 years than I did like every other year of my career. And I would argue that we are in the most unstable economy, world, all of it. But it's like, okay, I can't control any of that. And that's not anything I should try to control.
Nope.
So what can I control and how can I cascade that into my team? And that's the focus.
Right. So many pieces here. So I want you to summarize this down, right? There's a leader listening that's like, oh my gosh, like, right? I'm what she's describing. And I'm not in control. I feel very burnt out. What's a message, words of encouragement, right? Somebody who's like, okay, I get it. Like, this is the transformation I need to start on. What would you tell them? Where do you start? How do they think about it?
I would say that first, the self-awareness is a really big deal, right? Because it means to recognize that it's happening means that you're stopping that train. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot in that. So I think one, congrats on the self-awareness. The other thing is that for as awful and out of control that you feel, and I'm not a therapist, but it is logical to me that you can then be that successful on the other side. So if you're in this super, super dark hole, well, great news. That kind of implies that you can be in that super, super great amount of light and success.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the recognition of it. There's something at least a little comforting in the idea that this just means that you can be 100 or 1,000 or whatever times more successful. Mm-hmm. And that you've already recognized that you need to do the work. From there, I think it really is like, there are so many resources for every style of learner out there, but I think it really starts with reaching out to people and saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
And just start there.
I need help.
And I need help. And if you go to a leader and you say that, and they don't say, I have been there too, they're lying to you and they've got some insecurities that they're working out. Yep. So recognize that they're a human and go ask somebody else. Because you're going to ask enough people and somebody's going to be like, Sane, come right on over here.
Yeah. Right. And somebody's going to be like, oh, I've gone first. I'm there. And that's why I think you and I align so much on like, there could be parts of our stories that you're like, it's not the most great thing to share, right? Out there as a business owner, there could be a little bit of shame. I'm going to use that word. That's my word, not putting that to you. But at the same time, I'm like, but if I don't share this and other people are in this spot, I'm not helping them realize that there's some normalcy to this, to feeling like some shame or not wanting to share all of that. That's part of the journey.
Absolutely. And the reality is that it's important to share because we got to the other side.
Yes.
Right? I bought a company. We did not have it valued. I had never seen the books. I had no idea how we made payroll or how we did any of the operations. Would I suggest that to anyone? No.
No.
Don't do that. Don't do that. But I share it for a long time. I felt a lot of shame because I was like, how could I not have known to get a company valued? Like, how could I not have understood? We are a staffing company, how we ran payroll. Yeah. But I didn't. I was so excited that I got to be in this position that I was like, cool, let's do it. Whatever. Sounds great.
Yeah.
And I share all of those stories for exactly that reason. Because one, if you can avoid it, please do. But if you have already done it, great news. There's another side that you get to.
Yeah. It's this, in the hardest moments, and the last couple of weeks have been hard for me personally. And I had this saying where instead of saying, why is this happening to me? I catch myself because initially I want to say, why is this happening? Right? I catch myself and say, what is it preparing me for? Mm-hmm. Because each of these things you've described, if I shared my journey, right? It's the exact same thing. Each of those moments was preparing you for the next climb, was preparing you for the next steep part of the mountain, was, preparing you for something down the road. And so if we start shifting our mindset to say this hard thing that we're going through right now, there has to be a reason. It has to be preparing us for something. I think it changes our outlook on tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I think it implies an interest in growth. And I think to me, growth and success are very much connected to each other.
Yeah.
And if I am not uncomfortable, I am not growing. And if I am not growing, I'm not more successful. Yeah. And so it just has to be. And I think you just get better at recognizing the discomfort and the anxiety or whatever it is, and figuring out how to just live in that in a way that's constructive.
Yeah.
And so what we said before, you just got to move, because like, what's the alternative? You just stay in the gross feeling? Like that doesn't sound great.
That's not a good answer. Stay in motion. I love that.
I was just talking to somebody about how there have been so many moments where I have literally looked at myself in the mirror and been like, it is illogical that you have peaked. So this can't be it. And I don't think it's like, again, I'm like not the most motivating person. Yeah. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, it is illogical that you're done, or that you're going to now just like careen off the edge of learning anything new. So there has to be more. You just have to wait to see it.
So I know you too well, and I love you so much because I can actually see you saying that to yourself in the mirror. Mm-hmm. Like, it's illogical that I have peaked. I think that is a statement everyone here should just start saying to themselves every morning. Like, there's got to be some good that's going to happen out of this.
We'll get those posters that were all in our like middle schools with like the person climbing up the mountain. Yeah, it was like courage. Just be like, yeah, it's illogical that you've peaked. I'm not the mountain person. If that you're not there yet, and the top of the mountain, and there's more mountains to climb. So, before we get into the bonus round of questions, where can people connect with you, follow you, right? If they want to just get more wisdom, right, and inspiration, what's the best way for them to connect? LinkedIn is the primary platform. I'm the only Hillary Spreizer, so that's convenient.
We'll put that in the show notes. Perfect.
The Latitude Group, we're big on LinkedIn as well. latitude-group.com. We put everything up there. But yeah, those are the spots.
I love it. Okay, let's dive into the fun questions. So when you need to reset your energy, what's your go-to song? And even if you're embarrassed of it, like what's that song you put on because you're like, I just really need to get in a good place?
So it's Anything by Ace of Base and George Michael. And by Anything by Ace of Base, they have like 5 songs. So it's easy.
And the ones that will not get out of your head once you play them. So you'll just be hearing it all day long. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not adding them to my playlist, but that's great for you. I'm glad that works for you.
You don't need to, because now their lyrics will be in your head.
Yeah, right.
All of the listeners, you're welcome.
What's a book or podcast that in the past you've listened to or currently you're listening to that's really helping you shift your perspective? You mentioned the books earlier. Is there anything else you would add?
Essentialism was really helpful for me understanding this idea of focus and the importance of it. That really started to shift my brain.
Yeah, me too. That it shifted my brain, and then I went, "Oh my God, I'm not good at this." Like, so it's something I need to pass.
Yeah. My favorite books are the ones that you read them and you're like, that is the most obvious thing, and I am not doing any of it. And that was that book.
Yet I know all of it, but I just don't practice
to do this.
We talk about, to lead well in today's environment, you need to be well. And we've talked about that kind of throughout here. What's one thing you do consistently to manage your own energy?
I move my body regularly and I meditate.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. And even if I'm not good at the meditation, like I'm very much a work in progress, it isn't about the quality of it. It's about taking the time to do it. And even just 5 minutes alone with my brain helps regulate my energy and nervous system enough. Yeah. And part of the reason we don't spend all winter in Minnesota is that if I can be in the sun and physically out moving in it, I regulate really well.
No, 100%. And then last question, if I gave you a billboard and you could put anything on it, a message, right, to the people that are going to drive by it every day and see it, what would you want it to say?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say the point isn't to have the answers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You haven't failed because you don't know the answer.
if anything, you're probably going in the right direction because you're looking for it.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for being here and for sharing your message.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to talk to you.
So many of the things you said are, the in motion is going to stick with me. And again, it's not like I didn't already know that, right? That I should, it's about the motion. It's not about the right answer and knowing that that motion is perfect, but it's keeping moving. And I think that's a reminder for all of us right now in uncertainty and darkness, right? You don't stay in the darkness. You try to move towards the light constantly. And some days it feels futile and some days you have success. So I think that's a really important message that you're sharing here. And this idea of there's so much in our world that we are not going to know the right answer and always the right next thing. But as leaders, our job is to go first, right? And to create the space for people to take chances and make decisions that maybe aren't perfect and then move from there. And I think that releases even some of the burden on us, which I think is causing a lot of burnout right now, is that we have to hold it all together all the time for everyone. And we don't give ourselves space to just be human.
I completely agree. And I also think that is why this idea of being a leader or successful is put up on this pedestal, because it's this idea that to be successful means you have to know everything. And it's irrational and it's impossible. And so from the very beginning, we're teaching everyone that looks up to us this unattainable thing and putting ourselves in this unattainable space. And the reality is that the only thing I can really do is explain my paradigm for how I make choices and hope that other people will develop their own, and then say constantly, we're going to try this and probably try some more stuff. And some of it's going to work and some of it's not. And that's okay.
That's being human.
That's being human. And leaders are humans. So this idea that we try to be something else, I think is toxic.
Yeah, it's doing damage. It for sure is doing damage. And hopefully through this podcast today, we've done some repair.
I hope so.
Right? I hope we've shifted some perspectives, right? That's the point of this podcast, is just maybe things you already knew, maybe things you need to be reminded of, maybe things that someone who needs to hear this. I think that's the other important thing, is the best thing for those who are listening is to take this in, right? Assess it for yourself and then share it with somebody that's in a place that they need to hear this message right now too, right? It'll hit on the right day at the right time.
Agree. Because if you are listening to this and you are like, yep, check on all of these things, I went through that however many years ago, like, first, what a gift. Please reach out to me because I'd like to learn from you, because you know what's coming for me. But recognizing that as leaders, we also have this expectation to care for our ecosystem in a different way. And that the decisions we make are usually for tomorrow, not necessarily for right now, but that however, wherever you are and you listen to this, if any of it resonates, recognizing that you are likely around other people that need to hear from you.
Yes. And they need to hear this, and we have to lift people up. So again, thank you for being here, for doing that, for people, for doing that for me. Because today was a day that I needed a little Hillary. So I appreciate it.
I love it. Next time, let's do it in person here.
In Palm Springs. I love it.
Yes. Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
Success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about what you discover once you're there. Here on View from the Top, we explore the stories, the setbacks, and the inner work that redefine what success really means. If this episode resonated with you, I'd encourage you to share it with someone who might need it right now. And to stay connected, make sure and subscribe so you get notified when we release new episodes. You can connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, or visit my website at jamietates.com. All of the links are in the show notes. Thank you for listening to View from the Top. We'll see you at the top and beyond.